We never thought it would happen, but here we are, Trump and Biden to debate twice. Trump's response, let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to Secular. Will Haynes joining me in studio, executive producer of Secular. Later on in the broadcast, we'll be joined by Sean Spicer as well as Rick Grinnell. It's going to be a packed show. And in a moment that I really wished would happen, this whole political season, I've hoped this would happen. You didn't give me my primaries. Okay, the Super Bowl seemed like it was never going to come around. But now, in a strange turn of events, maybe it's due to the fact that Joe Biden's polling numbers were cratering. But guess what is going to finally happen? 2 on the books, scheduled announcement today. 2 debates, Trump v. Biden. And it all started with Joe Biden this morning dropping this video on social media.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Throwing some shade there. Free on Wednesdays. Obviously, the day's off court, out of court. And we didn't know what was going to happen because the Biden administration also the Biden campaign put a list of requirements. Some of those, Will and I were talking today, didn't think the Trump campaign were going to go for. But Trump responded very quickly with essentially, and I quote, let's get ready to rumble, quoting old Michael Buffer there, and agreeing to 2 debates. The first one is coming June 27th, so not that far away, just a little over a month, on CNN. And September 10th on ABC. Part of the requirements by the Biden administration was that it would be held on certain networks, either the mainstream networks, NBC, ABC, CBS, or CNN, or Telemundo. What was, of course, not on that list?
Fox News and MSNBC.
Any friendlies. So you got to understand that Trump knows he's going to be getting himself into a situation, but he shines in those moments, so we'll see. Last debates 4 years ago obviously did not go super well really for either candidates, and there's a lot of rules and regulations, but I want to hear from you too. Are you excited about this? I'm excited because look, I could take my own political point of view out of this and go, I love this part of politics. I don't love politics much at all. I think there's some real darkness that kind of goes all over all of it, but I do like to get my friends around, and now we're going to be able to get around on June 27th and watch a debate like it's a big sporting event and actually hear what a President Trump and a President Biden have to say to each other. Notably absent will be any third party. So that means RFK Jr., not invited to the dance.
That's right. And we'll go over kind of what the stipulations were that were put forward by the Biden team here in the next segment. But they did say that the debates should be one-on-one, allowing voters to compare the only 2 candidates with any statistical chance of prevailing in the Electoral College. So very specific there. Biden doesn't want RFK Jr. there. I think we could look back in the 90s and see when the Ross Perot spoiler for Bush 41 happened. I think that there are some reasons why the Biden administration, or the Biden campaign in this case, would not want RFK Jr. there to take away from his limelight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll find out more of that. We're getting a lot of notifications coming in. And the first person I thought to call this morning, shoot a text to, was Sean Spicer, who obviously press secretary, has been involved in politics for a very long time, but also, honestly was someone who is deeply involved in the process and was involved in the process of reformatting the debates for the RNC, for the Republican primaries. He had a lot to do with that. Now, those kind of became lackluster this year because of lack of your front runner being there. And it seemed like we were heading to a place where we weren't going to have presidential debates, that there seemed to be no reason to do it. But I am confident after watching that video, which, by the way, in typical Joe Biden move, this video is 13 seconds long and has 6 edits. 6 jump cut edits in a 13-second video. That kind of says it all. But there are a lot of rules. There's some regulations. There's going to be some mics cut. It's going to be an interesting night. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, the first thing I've looked forward to in this political season, I'm also going to tell you how the ACLJ is getting involved in election integrity coming up a little bit later.
Some people think champions are born, that it's a title that requires something only a handful can ever possess.
There are times in our lives that we are called, every one of us, to step up and serve a cause greater than ourselves.
Even when the loudest voices in the room say it's wrong, that it can't be done. It can be a difficult stand, but it's one any of us can make, including you.
You can be the change. You can make that difference.
You can be a champion. We cannot do what we do without you.
By becoming a monthly donor, you can become a champion of life.
A champion of liberty, a champion of freedom.
Please join us. Become an ACLJ champion today.
Welcome back to Secular. We are going to slow it down a little bit so you have a better understanding of what these debates are, the likelihood of them happening. And honestly, in the last hour, it seems like that likelihood has changed dramatically to it's happening. It's on. You have a TV partner on both of these debates, whether that is the June 27th debate on CNN. And of course, anything can happen between June and September, and the September 10th on ABC. I think this is coming out of two different reasons. One, you saw the cratering numbers for Joe Biden in those polls just yesterday. So I don't think that you should discount any of that. Then you have the situation where currently, obviously, Trump is dealing with not being able to campaign for a lot of his time. He is currently stuck in court. So what this does, it gets maybe a positive spin on a Trump potential presidency, because you're going to give him the opportunity to do what he usually does pretty well, which is debate and convince people. Again, those last debates in 2020, I think we kind of have to remove those. We know some of the problems that were going on during 2020, and obviously COVID and everything that came after that. So to me, erase those a bit and now go towards more of the 2016 Trump debates. However, there are rules and there are stipulations, things that could, in fact, hurt the president or hurt President Trump. But it does show weakness also on the Biden camp, because they're saying we have to have all these rules.
That's right. And we see these rules coming out of a letter that they sent to the Commission on Presidential Debates last night. So the Biden campaign sent this letter to the Presidential Debate Commission saying, we're not going to participate. Now, we already knew that these weren't going to happen because the RNC wasn't participating and President Trump wasn't participating with the Presidential Debate Commission anyways, but they were formally noticing them that they were not going to participate in the debates that were supposed to be some in October. There were 2 in October after early voting had already started. That was a big sticking point for a lot of people, saying, hey, some people have already cast their ballots before even seeing these two candidates face off. But they did stipulate, hey, this is what we want to see in a debate. And so these are kind of some of the ground rules that the Biden campaign put forward.
I want you to listen to these and call me and give me your thoughts. Do you think the Trump campaign made the right decision by accepting the debates, knowing that these are the stipulations?
So they said, we believe the first debate should be in late June, which is an interesting thing to note since technically neither of them are nominated by their party at that time. This is before both conventions. But
yeah, we need to clarify that, because there was talk about that. The fact that the debates that were going to be held by the debate commission, the official commission, the concern the Trump campaign had was these are going to be held after early voting started in certain states. These are independent.
Technically, yeah, they are independent. But
these are TV events.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is, so once again, we said it'd be in late June. They noticed that it would be likely after the New York criminal trial is over for Trump, and it will be after President Biden's G7 summit with the world leaders. They say it should be hosted by any broadcast organization that hosted a Republican primary debate in 2016 in which Donald Trump participated, and a Democratic primary debate in 2020 in which President Biden participated. So neither campaign can assert that the sponsoring organization is obviously unacceptable if both candidates have previously debated on their airwaves. So they were trying to draw that line of saying, like, look, it's got to be a news organization that Trump has gone to before and debated on, so that he can't cry foul that it's MSNBC is the only one that would take this. The debate should be one-on-one, allowing voters to compare only the two candidates with any statistical chance of prevailing in the Electoral College, and not squandering debate time on candidates with no prospect of becoming president. A little shade to RFK Jr. there. Yeah. The moderators should be selected by the broadcast host from among their regular personnel so as to avoid a, quote, ringer or a partisan. And there should be firm time limits for answers and alternate turns to speak so that the time is evenly divided and we have an exchange of views, not a spectacle of mutual interruption. And a candidate's microphone should only be active when it's his turn to speak to promote adherence to the rules and orderly proceedings.
I mean, it's a lot of rules. It's a lot of process that I'm not sure benefits really either of them, for that matter. I honestly don't hate the idea of cutting the mics off, because we've seen what has happened because these moderators, if we're being honest, can't control the candidates. We've seen that time and time again. So you have some sort of technical stipulation. I guess I'm okay with it. The idea that RFK not invited to it does sting a little, and I think it stings a little because, sure, do I think he really has a chance of becoming the president right now? No, I don't. And as much as I think he's presenting interesting ideas that make people think, he also is an alternative that a lot of people who voted for Joe Biden, and some that voted for President Trump last time, because they don't want to vote for these two. And when he's polling 10%, 15%, it's not like that's a small amount of people. You're not talking about putting up Marianne Williamson. You're talking about putting up someone who's polling at 1% or less or 2%. You're talking about someone who has a sizable percentage of the American people behind them and saying, sorry, because we don't think you're going to win, your voice doesn't matter. That is just reinforcing the idea that a two-party system is the only way.
And I think it also shows how much I think this was a poll-driven decision by the Biden-Harris campaign. One, we talked about all those swing states where President Trump has sizable leads, and they were states that President Biden won in 2020, and they clearly are freaking out about that, and they need to showcase him. It's the risk, right? Do you showcase him and he comes across terrible, or does it showcase him? He looks like the leader that they believe he is, and he's the adult in the room. That's what they're gambling with. But I think the specific decision to point out the RFK statistical chance of winning was almost back to that discussion that RFK put out. When you do head-to-head matchups between RFK and Biden, he wins sizably.
Yeah.
And so they don't want that.
You are giving RFK somewhat what he wants, which is the fodder to keep this conversation going. I am sure in the upcoming days and his campaign stops, he will be talking about the fact that he's polling such high numbers and not allowed to debate. I can see the point of not having him there because he can't win. I get that. But when you statistically eliminate 10 to 15% of the country, that's a lot of votes. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people to tick off too. And where do they end up? If it's Biden calling these rules, it's not Trump calling that rule. Maybe they go Trump. We'll see. But you are right that we are dealing with a time. We got him now, right? I see him. So I think we got Sean Spicer ready for us. Sean, you there? I wanted to get your feedback initially. Obviously, this morning we all woke up to that video from President Biden saying, I'm ready to debate. I won multiple debates. Let's do it. And I think Will presented me what the rules were. There was even conversation of within those rules, could the Trump administration or the Trump campaign, are they going to want to do this? And they've agreed. It seems like it's happening. But I thought if anyone could comment on this, it would be you. So that's why I hit you up this morning. And I just want to get your initial thoughts.
Look, I think the Biden campaign was in a corner, backed into a corner, and they thought if we lay out the most favorable terms, i.e. no third-party candidate, we get to have it at one of the media outlets that is unbelievably deferential and favorable and part of our team, i.e. CNN and ABC. We get rid of the live crowd. Anything that benefits Trump, if Jill Biden moderates it, if I get 2 naps, then we might as well throw that out there and see what he does. And Trump, he keeps saying anytime, anywhere, and true to himself, he said, okay, I'll take it. I think it's interesting to me, though, because the bar is so low for Biden that he just has to show up. But at the same time, he's going to get such an advantage by being at CNN and ABC, who, I mean, it's not an exaggeration when we say are led by Democratic operatives. You can think about Jake Tapper and George Stephanopoulos and, Margaret Raddatz, who cried on election night. He has 2 very sympathetic moderators, and the bar is very low. He literally has to stand there for whatever it is, an hour, and then maybe take a nap or something in between.
I think looking at these rules too, some of them being also that the mics have to be cut off after a certain amount of time, and again, no audience. Somewhat it shows, and I'm no puppet here, but it shows some weakness coming from them, and in the conversation of also being it has to be the 2 of them. It can't be a third party, even though we know an RFK, though has no real path to win, is polling a good number, a bigger percentage than a lot of people will.
He'd qualify under the presidential, commission's rules. But here's the thing, and this is why like your show and my show are so important. Do you really think that Politico or the New York Times or NBC or anyone is going to report that Biden, made it clear that those were the conditions? No. Yeah. They're not going to. And so this is the advantage. They are playing with house money because they know that no one's going to call them out. Right. And no one's going to say to them, hey, that's ridiculous. Like, you don't get to dictate the terms. I negotiated the primary debates in 2016. I negotiated on behalf of President Trump for the NBC town hall. The idea that one campaign is dictating to the media would never be acceptable, except for the fact that this is Biden and they are going to do everything they can to help him.
This situation, though, you're in the Trump, if you are the people making these decisions, and Trump has accepted now, I think it's going to happen. I think that the conversation was maybe it will, maybe it wouldn't. I think it's happening now. So the decision making from the Trump point of view has got to just be, let's get out there in front of something, because at this point, all we're getting is this court coverage. So can we come up with something else here? And now he's finally agreed to do it. Maybe the Trump campaign thinks Trump can shine even under these conditions.
He's going to. Look, as much as Joe Biden's going to play on a home field advantage, Trump's got immigration, the economy, China, every foreign, kerfuffle that's occurring in his advantage to exploit. If I were Trump, I'd get up there and say, this is my record. Here's what I did. Joe, talk about yours. I'm done. Shut my mic off. Shut it off and let Joe Biden talk. Well, and that would be the tactic, because Biden can't defend his record. The only thing they have is abortion. They talk about defending democracy, and yet they're kicking off the third-party candidate. They're not allowing people to participate. I mean, the irony of what his rules are really about is shutting out any kind of dissension. So I do think that Trump is going to have a massive advantage on the issues and on his record, and that's going to be the key. My only advice to Trump is don't get in your own way. Let Biden sink on his own. Just literally welcome people. Thank you for having me, CNN. Jake, give all the time to Biden.
But it is a very interesting time, Sean, and I can't wait to hear your feedback on that night. So it's going to be fun.
I'm excited. I know I just booked my June 10th and 27th of September all up. But I'll give you one thing. RFK shouldn't be mad at Trump. Trump didn't exclude him. It was Biden that did it. Right. And that's what has to be said. Make sure that Trump, he doesn't fall into that trap of making sure that he gets blamed for this. This was all on Biden.
Yep. And I think that is, head to head, we saw what those polls would be. So, you know what? It gives him a good talking point to go out there and continue this conversation. I think we're going to see some major shifts happening. Sean, I really appreciate you coming on here at the last second and joining us, because it is a crucial time for all of us. But look, I think for you and for I, this is fun. I'm excited to actually put something fun on the calendar, as you said. I've already called my buddies and said, we're getting together. We're watching this debate. It's great. It's our Super Bowl. It's going to be fun. Thanks for joining us, Sean. We'll be right back.
The ACLJ's work at the UN Human Rights Council is extremely important. The Human Rights Council is the entity within the United Nations body that is responsible for promoting and protecting all human rights. As the UN is currently the international stage to address these issues, we want to make sure we are there speaking up for the victims of religious persecution who are often dismissed and overlooked. Ministry of Presence is actually a very effective tool when fighting for justice. Through our European Center for Law and Justice, which is an NGO, we participate in each session, drafting written submissions and delivering oral interventions covering the most egregious human rights and religious liberty violations. We are committed to defending religious liberty and human rights worldwide, and we will continue to be actively engaged at the UN Human Rights Council and with its subsidiaries every chance we get. Visit aclj.org for more information.
Welcome back to Secular. Rick Grinnell's joining us. Rick, another voice that I really wanted to hear the feedback from this morning's news that the debates are on. I didn't think we'd get to this day after the last year of, like we said, President Trump is totally fine with not debating. You know, he has in 2016 had one debate he didn't show up at. Obviously gave no cred to the Republican other candidates running this year, and understandably so. But this time around, I thought that maybe it just wasn't going to happen. That sort of those fun events that we all look forward to were not going to happen. But the rules were set by the Biden administration. They put out, a 15-second open challenge, then, put up a little statement saying, well, here's what we really mean. When we first got those rules, I was like, Trump is not going to agree to these rules. These rules are ridiculous. But you can never you basically second guess where President Trump will go. He said yes, accepted, and now these two are on the books. But I wanted to get your feedback.
Yeah, look, I look forward to having two presidents, a current and a former, actually talk about their vision for America. I'm not sure that we have been privy to something in modern times that is so clear-cut in a race. You literally have Donald Trump's version of America versus Joe Biden's version of America. And I think people want to see the clear distinction. This is a disaster for Joe Biden. He's got nothing to run on. He's got no successes. He's got lots of failures, and yet he's got all of the media. So they're going to try to convince people that multiple wars don't matter, high gas prices don't matter, and what you're seeing at the grocery store is an illusion. It's going to take a lot of money, Logan, and it's going to take a lot of spinning. I don't think they can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, my apps that track my spending definitely tell me it is not an illusion. But Will, I know you got something.
That's right. Well, to me, the timing of this is so curious. We saw New York Times put out their polling earlier in the week that shows President Biden trailing in very important swing states that he may or may not have won in 2020. But we see those polls come out, and all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, this what appears to me to be almost a Hail Mary from the Biden campaign. Is it a direct referendum on these polls, trying to just gain a little bit of ground at this point?
Hey, Logan, aren't we lucky to have somebody like Will, who nothing gets by him? He's a very smart political guy. He sees what they're doing. He sees their spin. The timing is unbelievable, Will. You're exactly right. I mean, to see all of a sudden these swing state numbers come out, they're getting pounded, and so they do a quick Hail Mary distraction. If you notice that video of Joe Biden announcing that he was going to do a couple of debates with President Trump, it's cut like more than 10 times, and it's like a 15-second video. He couldn't even get through 15 seconds. So I look forward to the contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's going to be fantastic.
Counting it the last time, and I think it was 6 or 7 edits, and I said it's very much as someone who's directed films and directed children. It is how you have to direct kids often, which is just to feed them a line, cut, feed them a line, cut, and it's awkward. It's why when you watch. It's why when a kid actor is great, you're like, wow, that kid, it was amazing. Yeah, because most of the time, I said, go watch the first Harry Potter movie. Every line, there's a cut because they had to just feed them lines. It's clear that's what's happening, including the zingers and the jokes and the, everything that gets thrown in there. And I said, there's one thing you could not take away from President Trump. If you give him a microphone, he will speak for, it could be 3 or 4 hours.
So the headline here is Logan Sekulow calls Joe Biden a child. I love it.
If it wasn't Joe Biden, someone who I would say even most Democrats understand could be easily defeated in a debate right now, you would look at these rules and go, this is a stacked deck that is a bunch of ringers. It is offensive to even consider because it's saying not only is it not friendly networks, we are only taking networks that, like you said, are CNN has to be the first network. ABC later on, you could maybe give a little bit more of a gray area there. But you say CNN is our first debate. No audience. So we know that plays into the fact that Biden will not do well in front of an audience, and we know Trump does very well in front of audiences. No third-party candidates. So even if RFK starts polling 20 or 30%, sorry, you don't get to be on that stage. And then what was some of the others? Were those the main? Those
were and the microphones being cut off.
The microphones are cut off. Again, another situation where I think that we are living in a world where those last debates and even some of the Republican ones were so chaotic because the moderators are bad. Because the moderators can't do their job often in these situations, that you have to have these new, what feels like very 2024 rules of we're going to cut you off. But you step on all of those, and still he says yes. Is it just because we have to have voices in that room? If a debate can happen, it doesn't matter what the stipulations are. But I want to know your thoughts on those sort of what feels like very specific rules that, of course, will never get reported as the mainline story. It'll be just Biden, challenges Trump, Trump accepts.
The credibility of reporters are at an all-time low. So I don't really think that they gain anything when they are so blatantly biased, especially against President Trump. he's going to throw it right back to them. So not having a live audience and having all of these rules is problematic, but I still think that President Trump can go in there and just kill it because we've got facts. But the one thing that I think the Trump team should insist on is not killing microphones. The media can't be in control of someone's debate. This is like censoring somebody. This is like gagging them to, I'm going to just do 30 seconds and then you're off. Sometimes people want longer answers than what the moderator is willing to give a politician. And so I think if you're going to be a debate person, a moderator, get out of the way. Let the two debate. Let people see how they debate and how they formulate their sentences. Don't save them with a controlled referee. When we have referees that are too active, people get really frustrated and you don't get the authentic sense of a debate. And I think that's what people want.
I am very, very curious who those moderators end up being when it comes to CNN and ABC, what those voices end up being in the room. But no, Will, you got something.
Yeah, it can't be lost here either, is that the rules that the Biden team put out feel like a gotcha, almost like, either he's going to balk at this and say, no way, that's ridiculous. And they can call him out and say, oh, look, he's too afraid to debate under our rules, or he accepts it and they think they've got him again. But people forget this is Donald Trump. He had a town hall on CNN during the primaries, just one-on-one with a moderator. Is the Trump derangement syndrome so bad that their image of who Donald Trump is and what he would accept to do, just not in touch with the reality of who this man is at all?
And we know in the last debates, they completely played for Joe Biden. There's some zingers of moderator moments where they save Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. And we find out later that they were pushing fake news. These moderators were not up to speed. Just one example is the Hunter Biden laptop that Joe Biden literally said in a debate was Russian disinformation. That wasn't true. And yet the moderators helped that moment, and they were pushing fake news. If the American public knew that was a real computer laptop with real accusations, things would have been different.
Absolutely. Rick, thanks for joining us today. I always appreciate your analysis. And look, our work at the ACLJ continues. I'm going to encourage you to sign our petition right now on election integrity. Go to aclj.org/sign. But look, today, you can tell I'm having fun with this. I was excited. This is, to me, I know some people said, Logan, how can you think this is fun? Because I like this part of it. I look forward to those dates, that date in June and that date in September, where we're actually going to see head-to-head President Biden versus President Trump. As Rick said, first time two presidents, active and former, probably have done this before, especially done it on TV. A very interesting time